Hi there, this is Chuck with Pocket Snakes. And, this is a shop bag. It's a canvas bag with a inner liner that's bonded. Helps keep the shot in. And I'm stitching stitching the bolster snug on it just to keep it in place. You don't have to stitch things on, but in this case, it's helpful to get it to stay put while you're braiding. And I'm just freehand stitching. This is doubled thread, but this is a simple stitch that will snug the bolster into place. And there's lots of ways to do stuff like this. This is just one simple way. This will be a snake whip or a signal style whip. It's going to be a leather whip, so I'm putting a leather bolster in place. One of the things I've figured out for measurement is bring the needle underneath at an angle, and then I can set a generic pitch for how many stitches per inch in general. You'll notice I've got a very long loop of doubled thread here. There's about 30 feet of string folded in half. So it's like a 15-foot long doubled loop. And you don't have to do this, but this takes a little longer, but then the stitching is consistent as far as the material just holding it in place. It's a lot easier to work with a 6-foot string at a time, but this is just the right amount to pull through. And so this shop bag is just under 3 feet long and goes from 3/4 of an inch or 20 millimeters down to nothing. This bolster is like this bolster, and it at its widest point is about 70 millimeters, or just about 3 inches in width. I work in millimeters just because it's easier in some cases. And you may, multiply 20 millimeters in diameter times pi and realize that's only 62 millimeters. Well, that's true. But then I'm just trying to get it to snug up, not to necessarily be under a ton of tension on the thread. I'm just mostly trying to wrap this to help give the shop bag some extra strength. And then this will have a single layer of tapered feathers or tapered strings braided onto it. Sorry about running into the camera, because I will run into the camera. I don't know. Can anybody hear me? Last time I tried to stream one of these, I didn't get sound. Hi, Bingo Official. Can you guys hear me okay? I don't know that I have sound on the stream. If you can leave a comment to say yes, you can hear me, it would be helpful, because all I'm doing is roughly baseball stitching a bolster onto a shop bag for a snake whip. I'm using roughly a 1/4 inch spacing. I didn't punch any holes because the main reason I'm stitching it is just to hold it in place while I lay the overlay on top. And the shop bag goes way down, like so. Like I said, there's 30 foot of thread here, so it's about 15 foot long. I have to pull through when I start, and then by the end I'll have about 2 feet that I have to pull through, depending on how wide I go with the stitches. Hello there. Sorry. Trying to just move it around. I'm just trying to set this. And this is a tapered bolster going from about 70 millimeters down to nothing over about 3 feet or 900 millimeters in length. I'm just trying to figure out if I have sound. So I do have sound. Okay, that's good. Okay. So this, I'm Chuck with pocket snakes. I build some interesting different whips. This one happens to be a signal whip. And I'm stitching a bolster as extra support on the shot bag. This is what the bolster looks like. It's a strip that tapers. And it's going around a shot bag that also tapers from about 20 millimeters to basically nothing. And I'm trying to put the seam right here in the middle on the back side as I go. And the main reason for that is so that the seams in the center roughly, it doesn't wander too much. Unfortunately, this is a little easier than fishing. You don't get too many snarls and knots that don't just pull themselves out. This is a upholstery thread that's doubled and waxed. It's bonded nylon. It's like 90-pound thread or something. And you'll see I'll run it up and over a thumb, which helps the direction of the thread a little bit. But with 15 foot, you have a lot of thread. And if you do get a bit of a snarl, you want to catch it before you pull it through. Thank you for coming and watching me do what I had to do anyway today. I'm trying to put some bolsters on some shot bags. I'll see if I can get some video of platting up some stuff just for those interested in that part of the process. If you're interested in how to bevel tapered strips for a tapered web, I have a couple of videos that are an hour and a half long of beveling a bunch of strips that are tapered. I try and share how I go about things. Everybody does stuff differently. There's lots of ways to do things. This method of attaching a bolster takes longer. I like the result, but it takes me about an hour to sew one of these on here because I'm not much or not very good at sewing. And the way I go about it, I'm sure, is slow compared to faster methods. But I like the end result, so. I'm trying to find a way to put the camera where I want and still be able to see what I'm doing and not run into the camera is always a challenge. The better angle I get so you can see, the easier it is for me to run into the tripod or the camera or the cord that keeps the power on. And I'm roughly doing 1/4 inch or 6 millimeter stitching just to hold this on. And if you can't see where I'm poking out on the backside, that's okay. I can't either. The light in here is not real good. So I'm not actually catching the shop bag, I'm running it. I'm running it on the inside, along the inside of the bolster at an angle. When I touch the string, I know I've got the tip close to where I want to come. And then I pull it through. And this isn't super exciting stuff, but some people want to know what I do. One of the reasons I share this is you can do a similar thing if you wanted to put a leather bolster or wrap on the handle of a hammer or something. This just happens to be a tapered bolster wrapping around a very flexible bag full of steel shot. Little corgi hair. If you snug it down going both directions, you can keep this line of stitches more or less straight. I dropped the needle, but it's on a piece of string, so you can pull it back up. And this is part of the whip that people don't ever get to really see. And the more consistent you can be with everything you're doing, the more smooth and uniform the end result will be. But I got tired of trying to wrestle and keep the bolster where I wanted. And I figured out that I could put a bolster on and stitch it into place. And then the bolster couldn't run away from me. So I'm sure there's some of you guys are faster at this than I am. There's probably faster ways to do this. It's just one way to do it. Not even saying it's the absolute best way to do it. It's just one way to put a bolster on a shot bag. Help keep the shot where it needs to be. Give it some more strength and even it out. So when you have a little bubble like that, you can pull the individual strings one at a time until it gets through. And then tension it up. Of course, your taper on your leather has to, for the most part, match the taper on the shot bag. So the shot bag and the leather have to be about the same taper, or it quickly will have a bunch of gaps that are worse than what's here. Again, you can grab one string at a time and seat it. I'm putting probably 10 or 12 pounds of tension into the thread, but it is heavy upholstery thread that's bonded nylon. And it's probably Tex 90 or something like that. So it's a fairly stout thread. But going through a whole bunch of holes a whole bunch of times, it will chew on the coating and remove the wax as you go. By the time you get to the end of the bolster. And thank you for joining me as I'm stitching bolsters onto shop bags. Some things aren't all that exciting, but you're trying to get about 1/4 inch spacing. I'm trying to keep the stitching also to be mostly slightly angled. And I'm also not measuring anything on this where I'm coming out. There's no pre-done holes. Also, you'll notice I'll find an angle, draw it up against the string, and pop it out. And that's how I'm maintaining more or less consistent holes. And it's not perfect, but it works pretty good. And now instead of 15 feet of doubled thread, I'm down to about 10. You can see I've got I don't know, like it's 10 inches, not quite a foot in, so I'm almost 1/3 done. And this has the ability, you can kind of work it a little bit. You can roll this when you're done if you want. It just depends on exactly how you want it, but it's gone from way at the other end, 3/4 of an inch. We're getting down to closer to 1/2 inch. And I'll throw the thread around because it's a little bit easier to manage the tangles if it's hanging off this one side of the corgi here, one side of the table or the other. Sewing is probably my least favorite thing to do. I'd rather spin thread than sew with it. And like I said, I'm using an angle like to get the spacing instead of measuring something. Bring the needle underneath at an angle. Touch the thread coming across as a stop. And it gives you pretty good. I have a lot of workarounds for things, but I haven't found a more consistent way to lock a bolster onto a shot bag. People have asked what the thread is. It lost its sticker a long time ago. It used to be a half-pound spool of bonded nylon. And I hot dipped it in wax, which is why it's got this waxy coating on the underside. Just dumped the whole thing in wax. But it was also sealed, so the wax didn't penetrate very much. Because I didn't know anything about thread, because I didn't want to ever sew anything. But I'll run into, much like fishing, the minute you're not paying attention to it, it wants to tangle, which is annoying. But also, like fishing, if you don't yank it when it's misbehaving, it will work itself out. But like anything I do, it takes a lot of patience to put it together the way I want it to go together. And I have a lot of patience, or I wouldn't braid whips. So I'm adding a, so this bolster is 1.25 mils. Or 0.05, 1.5 inches. or 7/128, which is, what is that, 3.5 ounce, and this is horsehide. So this is Horween horse front. It makes a nice bolstering material. This is a double tan or a two tan, or they also call it a Latigo tan. It's tanned. In veg, and then it didn't like the way it was going or whatever, and came back and tanned it as chrome tanned. So it's been tanned twice. Makes it pretty tough, especially at its thickness. It makes a nice little bolstering material. It's like a kind of like a shoe leather, like you'd use for uppers. Not that I want to be a cobbler or anything. So each one of these takes me just over an hour to sew up. I'm about halfway through stitching this one. I can do this faster if I'm not trying to shoot a video, because I can throw my arms around a little bit more. But some people are interested in different things they can try when they're making whips that they may like to do. May give them different results or better results. Seen people tape stuff together and use adhesives and other things. I haven't found anything better than sewn duck cloth and a sewn bolster yet. Although, like I said, it takes me an hour to just stitch the bolster to it. It isn't designed to create a ton of tension, but it does create some consistent tension across the bolster without going through a bunch of extra bindery steps, which you can go through and put a lot of bindery into stuff and spend an hour binding and create variable stiffness and tension as well. And yes, I am rope burning the tops of my fingers, but by drawing this string through so that it's not at an angle, it doesn't erode the whole oblong. And I can tension it up, and it's less likely to try and tear out the backside, because even though the leather's pretty strong, the thread is abrasive and also strong. The nylon's stronger than the leather is. And I'm sure there's two needle stitching that you could do. Just this one is the one I've chosen. And that might change next month, and I'll make you a different video if I do decide, and there'll be a reason I changed it. But I've got 10 of these to do that are all consistent, to make them as consistent as I can. This physically binds the leather to the tapered core. Pull one thread at a time. Come back and pull both threads. The more you can keep the tension even as you go, the straighter you can keep the stitch. because I'm not stitching through the shop bag at all. I'm just stitching the leather to the other side of the leather. Stop here for a second. You can kind of see how everything tapers, and the shop bag runs out before the leather does, and that lets you. I'll trim off some of this backside where this is called the seam allowance. I'll trim that off as I bring everything together. But it gives you a sense as you go through stuff. Now I'm down to about 7 or 8 feet. And we're getting down to like 3/8 of an inch in diameter. I'm a fan of what works and figure out what works consistently, and then try and refine it as I go. And I don't do a ton of this style of shop bag, but mostly because I really hate sewing. Even this hand stitching is tedious. Some days I have the patience to set and sew shop bags to bolsters. Some days I don't. But as they say, as time goes to zero, effort goes to infinity. Oops. Told you I keep running into the camera. Sorry, guys. Gals. 6 feet of material or thread. And you can see there's no holes. I haven't made any holes until I run the needle through it. There's a couple of reasons for that. It's very hard to predict what that line of holes should look like because the shop bag is also made by hand. It's machine stitched, but it's still a handmade thing. So the angle of the taper could be of the shop bag when it's full of shot could vary, and then they wouldn't be in the same place. The funny part is they look like that one looks too far, but once it gets pulled, it won't look too far. Again, when you get a loop like that, just pull the individual strings until they're snug. And tension them down. Usually means your needle's not setting on the center bite, which you can fix by pulling them through, letting the needle find the center bite again. Not B-I-T-E, B-I-G-H-T, like a rope or nautical term. And yes, I've kind of bent up and destroyed this poor needle. This is the 9th shot bag here in a row that's identical. And the 10th one will go on this bolster here. Alrighty, getting down to about 1/4 inch. And more than an hour. So it's taken me longer than an hour to do this one. I don't know about y'all, but my focus on any one task is starts to wane after an hour to 2 hours. In this case, I'm starting to slip. when you start to slip, you're going to probably stab yourself with the needle. So in the stream, and this Check with Pocket Snakes, like and subscribe.